Hey guys, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and I've got a bit of versus tank action here for you today. I'm going to be comparing two Tier 8 Soviet premium medium tanks. First up, the T-44-100, the most recent Tier 8 Soviet premium medium tank to go into the game. It was actually a reward for a series of the Marathon Mission series, that if you managed to do an astronomical amount of damage and kills across each of the 8 nations, then you could pick up one of these tanks for free. And it makes full credits, it makes full experience. And that was absolutely awesome for players who do play this game a lot, but don't have the money to be able to invest into it. So these Marathon Mission tanks are awesome for free-to-play players. But usually free-to-play tanks, free-to-play Marathon Mission premium tanks the Wargaming put into the game are not quite as good. But there's a bit of a story about this vehicle. On the Russian server, this wasn't part of a Marathon Mission. You would be able to get this tank, I believe, for signing up, and please somebody correct me if I'm wrong, for a specific kind of internet, I think. Would you believe it? Like the internet service provider, if you chose a specific one, you would get T-44-100 in your garage. Definitely come by. You know what I mean? So what I'm trying to highlight here is that when Wargaming put in a vehicle that they know is going to be part of a Marathon Mission, a lot like the FE4202, I would argue that they don't make it awesome and then they kind of buff it up. Whereas with this tank, it has very impressive statistics, and I don't think it was ever meant to really be a Marathon Mission tank that everybody could get their hands on for free. Of course, if you miss that, you're not really going to get another chance to be able to pick up this tank. Until today, where if you want to, you can go and pick one up in the premium store. And so I wanted to try and highlight the differences between this and the T54 First Prototype, which we're shooting at here. And you can tell I was a little bit angry that I didn't manage to kill him on the first shell, but it doesn't really matter because we finished him off with our second. But yeah, so you can try and figure out the differences between these two tanks, and so if you're confused between them, which one you might want to pick up. So I might be spoiling the video here a little bit by saying that since I got the T-44-100, I haven't really played my T-54 First Prototype very much. You might be saying, okay, job done, I'm done. I can stop watching this video 2.5 minutes in and can go do something else. Did you just see that ghost shell through the KV-85's turret? Wargaming! Trying to get me good and proper here. But we push over and start to take on this Tier 6 Soviet heavy tank. He ricochets off our armor, which, you know what, isn't very strong on this vehicle. I digress, my god, the action's just too all in right now. So I was trying to say that I haven't really played my T54 Mod 1 very much since I got my T-44-100. And that's because just the mobility on this tank is absolutely incredible. Really, you sacrifice a lot of the armor, which I'm going to be showcasing in the next gameplay, to be able to get incredible mobility. Now, it's not really the power to weight ratio that this tank has as its key advantage. It has a relatively mediocre power to weight ratio of just over 15 for a medium tank, but what it does have is impressive Soviet ground resistances. Its ground resistances are pretty much a half, and so that means that it just seems to slip over the surfaces as if it was an ice rink. It's absolutely awesome. And it's a bit of a shame that Wargaming don't really show you that in the garage. Oh god, the shell going into my engine there from the Cromwell Blin, and I lost my driver as well. Bit of a downside there, but we killed the T-32. So Wargaming don't show you in the garage that the T-44-100 has amazing ground resistances and is actually way faster than the T-54 First Prototype. If you didn't see those ground resistances, you might think that the tanks are pretty much as equally as mobile, but they're certainly not. Gun-wise, the tanks are different, because I was going to say the T-44-100 had an overall better gun, but that's not the case, because the T-54 First Prototype actually has a tiny little bit of a rate of fire advantage, 0.09. The T-54 First Prototype fires 7.5 rounds, whereas this tank fires 7.41 rounds. That's not really a big deal. What is a larger deal on these tanks, however, is that this tank is slightly more accurate, 0.01. Again, I guess not a big deal, but 2.2 seconds aim time on the T-44-100 compared to the T-54 First Prototype, which has 2.4 seconds. aim time. And also, more hidden statistics that Wargaming don't want to show you is that the T-44-100 has better not ground resistance, well it does, but it has better gun dispersion values when you're moving and when you're turning the turret, and so that makes this 0.2 seconds aim time disparity between the vehicles just that much bigger. And also, I should hasten to add that the fact that this tank has got 7 degrees of gun depression, that's a lot of gun depression for a Soviet medium tank. That's 2 degrees more than a T-62A and a T-54, tier 10 and tier 9 respectively. And it's also 1 degree better than the Object 140, for which has a bit of a speciality for gun depression. Another reason why this tank is absolutely awesome is because it carries a hell of a lot of ammunition, as we're going to see in the next replay. This tank carries 56 rounds of ammunition, and so I can take a plethora of AP rounds, APCR rounds, and I can even take 3 high explosive rounds. And even though I've done 4,500 damage in this replay and picked up 8 kills, I still have enough ammunition if I needed to be able to go on to win. I guess I'm quite lucky there that I did manage to ricochet the APCR round from the T-44-100. It sucks for him though, because he was on 5 kills, and if he'd killed me, he would have got his top gun. So now for the other one, the T54 First Prototype, and when this tank first went into the game, I thought it was absolutely awesome, and don't jump to conclusions, I still think it's a very good tank. 120mm of frontal hull armor and also on the turret, and 90mm of side armor. This vehicle has as much side armor as the T-44-100, the previous vehicle in this comparison, has at the front of the tank. And so that means that this vehicle is pretty much as heavily armored as a heavy, yet it still has about 75% of the mobility of a medium tank, which makes it very flexible and also very fun to play, especially in this kind of a matchup. This kind of a matchup on Runeberg is an utter dream for the T-54 First Prototype, and that's why I'm being rather aggressive here. The Tiger II over-angles his armor. I'm going to hopefully try and ricochet his shell off the front of the tank if I can't get a second little cheeky shot in, holding him still for all of my allies who are above. Now I'm going to do something that the T-54 First Prototype is probably the best tier 8 medium tank in the game at doing, and that is side-scraping out. Bouncing the shell at an angle where you almost like just trick your opponents into shooting at it, and then returning fire into the Tiger II. That is, I thought I was going to put in the 4th there and get the kill, but I didn't quite. Still, 3 rounds into him, 821 damage. That is rather decent indeed. And there we go, we nail the CDC and he bounces off us. We're talking about ricocheting decent-sized rounds with high penetration here. The Tiger II, 225mm of penetration. The CDC about 212, right? Unless I'm mistaken. And at these kind of short to mid-range engagements, you don't need the extra aim time that the T-44-100 has. It doesn't matter if you've got 2.4 seconds aim time, some of the worst out of all of the tier 8 medium tanks, because you have the armor to be able to do things that other medium tanks simply can't. You can take risks, you can get caught out in the open by OIs and just ricochet their shells. I don't know exactly what the caliber of that round was. No, actually, no, I do. Looking at the block damage there, we're up to 1,260 now. That means that OI is using the 150mm gun, and he did bounce off us with AP. Now we're going to try and take a snapshot at the SU-152 and just take a look at how long the aim time is on this tank. And that's one of the reasons why I do feel that I am gravitating more towards the T-44-100 now. Because, in all honesty, the amount of times that you get into these kind of situations where you're on a lovely matchup and you're on the perfect kind of map are rather rare, but it does make the T-54 First Prototype feel like one of the most crazy tier 8 medium tanks. The Ag Tiger finally able to put a round into us, 247 damage received there. The next one he tries to shoot at our tracks again, just locking us in place. I instantly repair it because I don't want to get held in place by the Ag Tiger, and he shoots at my well-angled frontal armor, and that was the last shot he's going to put into me as we ricochet yet another round onto him, and now I notice I'm getting engaged from behind. So what I do is lock the Ag Tiger down, and then even I'm quite happy with this play here. Use the dead SU-100 to effectively put my tank against, bouncing shells off the rear of my tank. I'm side-scraping for the people behind me while continuing to take out the Ag Tiger 88. Then swing the tank round. That SP-1C probably thought he had the advantage against me. No, you certainly didn't, Sonny Jim. But you know, one of the worst things about this tank, God, this is like a roller coaster of best, worst, right? I guess that's hopefully what you're trying to look for out of this kind of a video in the commentary, is that now we have run out of AP rounds. Because this vehicle carries so few shells, we're talking about 34 rounds of ammunition here. That is a very low amount of potential damage for a tier 8 medium tank, when the other vehicle carries 56. And so you have to take quite a few APCR rounds in this tank for when you do get into those tier 9 and tier 10 games, where frankly the AP pen of 183 is not competitive against most tier 8 heavies, tier 9 heavies especially, and all tier 10 tanks are probably going to laugh at you if you're firing AP rounds at them. And so with the T-44-100, you can take a whole wealth of APCR rounds, but you don't have to fire them. On this tank, however, when you have a good game in a good matchup, you have to waste a lot of the credits that you otherwise would make, which is rather disappointing. Did that IS-3 just try and cut me off there? Maybe. I don't know. Either way, we secure the kill, our 7th of the game. Great result. I'm not going to get the Type 62, my team just hound him down. GG in a short 5-minute game on Runeberg. So there's one other thing that I should highlight about these vehicles, and that is that the T54 First Prototype has rather poor view range. You'll notice that I'm using combat rations. I also have an exceptionally skilled crew that I'm using in this tank, and yet I still can't get my view range up to 445 meters, because the base view range of this tank is 360, whereas the T-44-100 has 380 meters base view range, and that can make all the difference, especially at mid to long ranges. So a couple of decent rounds for us here. We pick up a Radley Walters medal in a high caliber in the T-44-100, 4,763 damage done, 1,650 base experience points, and we make 103,000 credits profit after we resupply all of that ammunition. One thing's for certain though, we didn't ricochet many shells in the T-44-100, only 3 out of 11. As you would expect from a tank that has 90mm of frontal hull armor and 120 on the front of the turret. The T54 First Prototype on the other hand gets a steel wall medal for ricocheting 8 out of 12, 2,220 blocked by the armor of this tank. But this profit is completely wrong. I think I fired at least 10 APCR rounds this game, and so I'd expect the profit to be more in the region of about 50,000. But if you don't take them when you're not top tier and you have to deal with tier 9 and tier 10 tanks, you can feel a little bit useless, because you lack the mobility of the T-44-100 to be able to flank your opponents where you can still make the AP rounds work. And so all in all, while I think both of these tanks are great, the T-54 First Prototype is brilliant when you are top tier, when you're hopefully on a city map where you can make the engagements short to mid, and where you're not getting pummeled by artillery on the enemy team. And this vehicle certainly can be one of the most fun and dominant tanks in the game in that kind of situation. But the issue is that maybe only happens in 1 in 5 games, and the other 4 out of 5 times your armor is irrelevant, and you would wish you were in the T-44-100. And so my go-to all-rounder has to be the T-44-100, unless I'm feeling a little lucky and I want to pray to the RNG gods to make something truly special happen. And so hopefully you enjoyed this video, or maybe it was just useful to you. If it was, please consider giving it a like. It really helps the channel out. And simply press the more info icon in the top right hand corner of your screen to see a plethora of other awesome T-44-100 and T-54 First Prototype replays if you're still undecided. And let me know in the comments how you feel these two tanks stack up. Do you think one is overall better, or do you come to the same kind of conclusion as me? And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.